the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce for inviting me and giving me a chance to speak. And I'd like to thank all of you people for coming. A while ago, I was really concerned about the province of New Brunswick. And when Kathy Rogers put her picture in the paper and she was so proud of her dad, I went to the legislature and got a meeting with her. And from there, she said she was proud of it, and I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a misprint in the paper. From there, she had roundtables meeting in Moncton, St. John, and Fredericton. And I went to them, and there was a whole bunch of people that were real upset. So I went around and seen all the different parties to just see which party would be the best to handle the situation. And there wasn't any party that I could find that had a plan as how we're going to reduce the debt and get this province turned around. So that's when I decided to start the KISS, New Brunswick Political Party. KISS stands for Keep It Simple Solutions. And I was born up in a large family of 13, right in the middle. And I lived up in North Tay. Right next to us was a dairy farm. When I was 10 years old, every chance I got, I spent the time at the dairy farm and worked and learned an awful lot of things. When I was in the early 70s, I bought a dairy farm up in Woodland. And right after that, there was an accident on another farm, and there was no ambulance service available. I took my tractor over, lifted it off the farmer out from under the tractor, put him in the back of a station wagon, got him to the hospital, and a group of us went after the government to get ambulances. We didn't realize it at the time, but there was no ambulance service outside of the cities. And the government gave us an ambulance to run, and it turned out to be, we didn't know it at the time, it turned out to be the first voluntary ambulance service in the province of New Brunswick. From there, it grew to be 100. And before they turned it into a paid ambulance service. I didn't just drive the ambulance, I volunteered on it for 25 years. I became an instructor, trained our 36 attendants, and worked on it on a regular shift. And one thing I would like to say about that voluntary ambulance service, we never had a shift that we didn't have people on. There was no time the ambulance didn't respond. A few years later, there was a young fellow got lost in the middle of winter in the woods, and the RCMP called me to organize a search, which I did, and then I turned around and I had another one in the next fall for 2 women that got lost, and we located them and got them out. A few months later, the RCMP drove in my yard and said, listen, we're having a meeting to form a ground search and rescue, and want you there. So I went and become a member and become the coordinator, and I was their coordinator for the first 18 years. But again, I went on and assisted all other 13 search and rescue teams in the province of New Brunswick to get organized and get going. And I went on and I helped train the coordinators. And a few years later, due to the ambulance service and the search and rescue, I kept putting in for 7 years that we need to have a critical incident stress debriefing team. And they called a meeting on that, and they called me, and I said, well, I'm too busy. And they said, well, no, you're the one that requested it for 7 years in a row. So anyway, you got to come. So I went, and I worked on that team for 14 years, I believe it was. So what the point I'm making, I guess, is that when I seen a need, I stepped up and did it. At this very same time, I had purchased this dairy farm with 83 cows, 85 head of cattle, and I grew it to 365 head of cattle with 6 full-time employees working for me. and I was doing all this at the same time. And I was also involved with the Co-op Home and Farm Supply. I was the director, then I was the president. Then I also became coordinator for the Co-op Atlantic wanted me on the advisory board for 3 years. And I did that also. So I had a real good rounded experience. I think as far as being a leader of a party, I feel that the search and rescue was the key thing that gave me a lot of experience on how to handle situations. We would get called out in the middle of the night for different things. We didn't just look for lost kids or people. People with Alzheimer's wandered away from places. We were called in to look after them. But we looked after floods, fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever come up. The RCMP needed people on the ground, and as a coordinator, we was called in and given the task to coordinate everything and get things going. And what really amazed me and what I see in the papers today is that even with this flood, there were people come out of the woodwork. They were not trained to do what those jobs were, but they were willing to help, and you would talk to them and find out what they could do. And I never had a person that didn't give me 110%. When I asked them to do a job, we would talk to them, see what kind of work they're doing. It could be anything from cooking for a bunch of people to going out and searching the ground or blocking roads or whatever. They always pitched in and did a very, very good job. And it's not the coordinator. You got to have a good coordinator in a sense. But the thing is that it's the people on the ground that do the work, and that's what really counts. And that's who should get a lot of credit for what's going on here. And that it's just amazing when you're working there and you put those people out in those conditions, and they just do so much. Now, getting back to the politics side of things, I feel our province is in bad shape. I feel it's there because of poor decisions by both the Liberals and the Conservatives for the last 20 years. If we keep voting for the Liberals and Conservatives, this province is going to go bankrupt. There's no doubt in my mind, and if you don't believe me, then I'd suggest you just ask your accountant. They'll explain it to you. So what I see is, the first thing is we got to have a party that understands how to get the debt under control. And the way I feel that we will get the debt under control, or start to get the debt under control, is going to be, I would put NB Liquor up for sale. They did this in Alberta. They let the grocery stores sell the liquor. Then they put all their assets up for sale and took that money and put it on the debt. This is an opportune time right now to do this, because not one person would lose their job with NB Liquor. When you get these extra stores out there, you're going to need inspectors, and some of these employees can be trained to be inspectors. Then, right now, we are expanding into the marijuana business, and there'll be retraining for them and have those there people go ahead and work in that field. So I don't think anybody would lose their job in the NB Liquor thing. And that will, the first estimates, and you won't know until you get into government and find out exactly how many liquor stores we own and how many we lease and all this and that, but it appears that it could be as high as $5 billion to help pay the debt down. So that there would be a good start. I have 3 other cards that I would be very willing to use to reduce the debt. I am keeping them close to my chest until such time I have the opportunity to do it properly. The other thing I see is the lack of jobs in this province. The money the government's investing has been poorly decisions made. I mean, we know Sears was not a good investment. They were warned it wasn't a good investment. Acton was another one. They was warned that wasn't a good investment. And they just keep on going. And the bond holding agencies have given this province a warning that our province is in trouble. We got to get our finances in place. And from what I'm seeing, every day, the government out spending money and promising everything to everybody. There's no way he's paying any attention to that. So we're in a serious condition. One thing that I think would help, and well, I know will help bring New Brunswick back around, is small business. And what I would plan, or the KISS party would plan for the small business, is a team of people that would go out and help small businesses get set up and get working. Like someone to look after the accounting, get their computer set up, get it all set up for that particular type of business, so they really know where they're going, what they're doing, and make it very simple for small businesses to enter it in the computer and have a very accurate record of what's going on. Then assist them with their marketing, advertising, product design, engineering work on them. Have a team, whatever comes up they need. This team would not be charged anything to these new companies. And where the money would come from that would be from the money that the governments are giving out to call centers. The call centers, we used to have all kinds of call centers in Stanley, Boys Town, Doak Town, and as soon as the money run out, the jobs run out. The government just steps out of it and let them go. Now, if 2 or 3 years down the road, they decide they want to expand the markets into the States or into Canada or overseas, that's when you can call this team back in and they can do research and study as to where is the best place to get these markets and go, and that'd be great. And I think that small business would be there, and they're from, they live here and they're from here, so they're not going anywhere. So that would, I think, would be a real good investment. Now, the other thing is 4 years ago, I started working to get the railroad yard going in Moncton. And me and Mr. Deland had letters back and forth, and basically 13 letters and no meeting. So I decided I'll try a different approach. So I went to the federal. I sent a letter. I took the very same letter off my computer, just took the last name off of it, put Dominic LeBlanc, took another letter and put T.J. Harvey, my MP, and one to Justin Trudeau. And within 3 weeks, I had a meeting with Dominic LeBlanc and another one with T.J. Harvey. And 3 weeks from that, I get a call that, oh, we got a contract for railway cars to be built in Moncton, and it's gonna go. Well, we've had a lot of setbacks and complications, but right now we have CRRC Canada Limited is a company from China that's in there, and they're getting prepared to start building grain cars and cars to, when a boat comes in, they can load the cars on the railway car and ship them that way instead of by highway or out of the factories in Ontario, I believe. So the other thing is that they're looking at getting an assembly line going there to manufacture railway cars for oil tankers. And that would be assembly line the same as you have for building the cars. And that would be a lot of good jobs in that area, and they're the type of jobs we need. I'm also for the mining in the Sissenbrook mine. I've been working with them for 8, 9 years. I was in real estate after I got out of farming. The reason I got out of farming, I got allergic to cows of all things, and I figured, well, God must want me to do something else. So I went into real estate, and I sold real estate, and I worked with Greg Davison, and we got they were looking for a warehouse, and that's how I got connected with them, and I've been working with them guys ever since. I got them the second warehouse, and now I think that mine is really a safe project. We've had 60 mines here in New Brunswick. I don't hear a lot of horror stories about things. It's a shame that there's a few people really go out and bring out the bad things and bring in pictures from other parts of the world and from other parts of Canada about mine disasters and all this stuff. But my personal experience is my brother, Ronald Bourque, worked for Gaspé Copper. He looked after the tailing pond for 30 years. That mine had a tailing pond for 35 years. And he explained to me, and I went and seen it before years before I even think about getting into politics. And I was up and seen his mill operation and that. And they pumped the effluents up to the tailing pond, and it just only got 25 feet of water in it at any one time. And they had one pipe leak, which was metal, and when I got involved with the System Brook mine, I called him to get advice. This Gaspé Copper's closed down now. They have seeded down the tailing pond, and it's growing grass and trees at the moment. So it can be done properly. It's a safe project, and it would create 300 jobs every day there per shift, and that's good. My understanding is that there's several of these molybdenum mines have closed down, and right now the prices of the minerals dropped a bit because these mines that had high piles of inventory sold it off just to get rid of it real quick, and that dropped the price for a while, but there's going to be a very shortage of it very shortly, and it's going to be a good demand for it. And being in the agriculture business and farming, I have a wide, diversified background in that type of stuff and understand that fairly well. And I really think that these are the type of jobs that we got to get going here in the province to get this place turned around and going in the right direction. Now, I guess the main thing that we want in the KISS party would like to see is, one, is to get the debt under control. The second thing is I would like to put tolls on all around the province, 9 locations, main entry points, and those tolls are will be very reasonable, like $3.50 for a car. And people are driving through this province. New Brunswick has been known as a drive-through province, and we would take that money and put it on the back settlements and the secondary roads. We have enough superhighways. We don't need to build those great big superhighways everywhere. So that's one thing that we want to do. The other thing that we need is a constitution. There's nothing to hold the politicians accountable. You've seen it, you've heard it, and my team went and did some research, and they found 7 constitutions in Canada, and they reported back to me, and I said, well, hold it, that's enough. If there's 7 out there, and we don't have one, that would be number 8. Don't waste more time, because it's a lot of work to get the province and the territories and go down through and see when they made a constitution and what it was. So we need a constitution that holds the politicians accountable. And that's why they've been able to do what they want to do and don't have to worry about it. You can't take them to court. That's how Duffy got off. When they went to court, the judge said, well, where's the rules and regulations? Well, we haven't got any. Well, if you haven't got any rules or regulations to break, you can't charge them. So anyway, we need a constitution. The strange thing is to form a political party in this province. Election in New Brunswick demands that you have a constitution. And, but yet, here, the province hasn't got one. And I could talk for a long time on that, as to how that all happened and whatnot, but that'd be another day. So I really see that as a major thing to help make this Constitution would be in place, and it would be for all future political parties to follow. It's not just a legislative thing in the legislature. It's put in there for the province, and that's what they got to follow and all that. And these politicians have known that for years, that they haven't had it. So I really feel that things can get turned around here. We don't have to go bankrupt. We can get it out of this mess, and with good government. Now I'm 71 years old. I'm not getting into it to fill my pockets or to get a big pension. I probably won't live long enough to get a pension. And but again, I guess what I see is there's a need there. We got to do something, and we just, if we don't, this province is really going to suffer, because if it goes bankrupt, the creditors are going to come in and they will just sell off whatever they can and to get their money back. And one of my biggest fears is that Irvin's just sitting there waiting. He's going to buy all the Crown land for pennies on the dollar, and that's not going to be good for anybody. So this is the way I see it, and I'm not really concerned about anybody, and we're just going to do what's right for the province. All the decisions made by this party will be made for the benefit of New Brunswick, or the majority of the people of the province. I don't think you're ever going to find a policy that's going to satisfy everybody. So anyway, at this point, would like to know what you people would like, and I do have business cards at the back there. When you go to leave, help yourself to the business cards, and I'll take questions and answers and find out what you want, what you're concerned about. And if you don't feel comfortable getting up and talking, just email me or give me a phone call. My telephone's number's there on the card, and glad to meet with you and talk with you anytime about any subject. Thank you very much. Has anybody got any questions?
I'll start. With regards to your tolls, the residents of New Brunswick will be paying all these tolls to come in and out of the province. Why would we be the ones to pay off our own debt? It's nice for all the tourists to come in to do it, but we reside here. How are we going to see the big benefit about these tolls?
Thank you very much for that question. We, New Brunswickers, will not have to pay, in a sense. When we set this up, I said, we had a committee, and I said, okay, we'll do this, and we will allow New Brunswickers to drive through free. And someone spoke up and said, you can't do that. What's going to happen is that a guy from some other province comes up to the toll booth, and $3.50 for the toll. Do you want a receipt? No. The guy pushes the button, lets the gate go up, puts the money in his pocket. So it's got to be accountability. So what they're going to be is a camera set up to match the car with the ticket, with the time they entered and whatever, and so everybody's got to pay, even the Brunswickers. But change the Income Tax Act so that you can file on your income tax and get a credit back for the amount of money that you paid for tolls. Now, for small businesses that travel back and forth on a daily basis, we would get an e-tag set up for businesses so that they can travel through back and forth without having to pay. And but everything else would have to pay as they come through, and Brunswickers will end up not having to pay if they don't want to. It's their choice. Yes, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Appreciate the opportunity to hear some of your thoughts and ideas. I wonder if you could speak a bit in terms of the population of New Brunswick and particularly around immigration. What would your policies and strategies be around immigration for the province of New Brunswick?
Yes, the immigration, I feel we're going to have immigration coming in. Our population is leaving, and I believe, like, if we get the mine going and the railroad going, you create jobs, the people will come, and that's going to help our population. But I find when I was in the real estate, I sold over the internet to England, Scotland, France, Ireland. There was 200 real estaters here in this province, in Fredericton. So I took a different way of selling real estate. And I was told that I did more for immigration than the government did. But anyway, we need to have our population pick back up and get more workers here. And I've had people say, oh, well, we can't fill the jobs we got now. But I worked in Knob Lake, Quebec at the Arctic Circle. There was 2,000 people working there in the iron ore mine for Iron Ore of Canada. They created the jobs, people went there. Look at Fort McMurray where it is. People flock there to get jobs. If the jobs are here, they will get it. The other thing that bothers me is that this year paying tuition for kids to go through college, when they get out, there's no jobs here in the province. So here in New Brunswick, the taxpayers are paying the tuition and paying for the college education through taxes. But then when they get out, they had to go out west to get a job. My son, he went out and when he got done, he ended up going to work in Ontario and never come back. That's, so what's happening, or what will happen, and when we pay the tuition, it's good for the students, but New Brunswickers aren't getting the benefit because the students are leaving and they pay their taxes in another province, and that's it. So, but thanks for that.
The business community needs to have a situation where it's affordable and attractive to bring new businesses here. So that includes taxes and all kinds of other costs to doing business. One cost that our members have expressed concern about is the rapidly increasing cost of WorkSafe. What are your thoughts on how those costs can be managed for small business?
You're absolutely right, and what we got to do is get the people back here working and get our debt under control and reduce taxes. Our taxes are way too high. There's no doubt about it. We're paying $83,000 an hour, 24 hours a day, just to service the interest on that debt. If we get rid of that debt, we have that kind of money to put towards reducing some of these program costs. And to draw businesses in, and that we have to get our property tax base down, we have to get our HST down, and be very competitive. And once we get the debt under control, then you can start doing those things. And it's, I can see a bright future for the province, because, I mean, if we get a few things going, there's other things that I really feel. I was watching a documentary on the W5, I believe it was, and it's about all the tractor trailers that are stolen, whole tractor trailer loads. To make it easier for drivers, the trucking companies have them go as far as Rivière-du-Loup. They got a big yard there where they back in, unhook, and hook onto another one and come back, so the drivers are home more often. And that works out good. Then they have the ones from Ontario come that far and back and forth. And they lose a lot of money every year. So a friend of mine I was talking to him about it, and he said that there's a good chance for new industry. We could set up, take these containers and put programs in them, programmable containers, so that when you go out to ship a load from here, point A to point B, you lay out the program, it's all put in the computer, and you'd have a security company who would sit there, and when that tractor trailer goes off course, or the back door is open before it gets to its destination, it sends an alarm back to the security company, and they can get a hold of the local police and tell them within 10 feet where that tractor trailer is at any one time. And one way they've been stealing stuff out of tractor trailers is up in Ontario. There's places where the truck drivers can go in and get a shower and a meal, and there's other trucks come in, open the back door, back up, just load the stuff onto their tractor trailer, close it back up, put another tag on it. The driver comes out and is unaware of it, and he's out on the highway, and on them flat highways up there, you don't notice you're not loaded heavy, and then that's long gone. And once it's in a tractor trailer, you can't tell where the heck it's going. So those are another job. But the other thing is too, is I think we should be building containers with these programmable boxes on them, and they can keep track of them all around the world, what's going on. Another thing is, I think we should get into solar panel building, and I think we should get companies in here to build windmills. I was working at the energy, or I was invited to be an intervener at the NB Power Utility Board hearings. Great education. There's so much there going on, but I was talking to the engineers, and there's lots of places that could set up a windmill to produce part of their own electricity to help reduce their costs. And this is a great job for, starting another business. And the way to do it is not have the government do it, is have invite companies in and get that going. There's lots to be done in the education system. There's lots to be done in healthcare, but until we get this debt thing under control, doesn't give any government much wiggle room. Anyone else?
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for your speech and for speaking this morning. My name is Brianna Workman. I'm the president of the St. Thomas Students Union, as well as the chair of the New Brunswick Student Alliance. And so I just wanted to follow up on earlier during one of your answers, you mentioned raising tuition costs, as well as New Brunswick taxpayers paying tuition and New Brunswick not incurring the benefits because students and young people leave the province after their education. So I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on that and programs that do increase access to post-secondary in the province, such as the free tuition program and tuition relief for the middle class. And then on a second point, if you're mentioning young people leaving the province, if your party has plans for youth employment and to improve retention of young people in the province.
Well, I think I'll do the latter question first, is the job creation. And this young fellow that came to me about putting the security systems in, the tracking systems in those air containers, his company has head bases in Chicago. And they got all over the province, or all over the world, they got 6 offices. And he came here and told us that we have the nicest office. They make more money out of the crew that working in Fredericton. And I think there would be an opportunity to invite them to move their head office from Chicago to here. And that would create a lot of work for students here. As far as the tuition goes, I think what would be very much more is get the province, the businesses in the province, do more co-op programs. this gives the student an opportunity to go to work in the field they like to work in, and they get some experience, they get some pay for doing this, and it helps the company out a bit. And when they get done, a lot of these companies will, if they appreciate the efforts of the employee, will keep these people. And to me, that would be a little bit better program than just paying for the tuition and you know, letting it go.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Bourque. Really appreciate you introducing us to some aspects of the KISS platform. So thanks for that. Thanks for your time.